NFL fans, it is week 4, and the NFL continues to go ahead and excite and unite fans all over the football landscape. My name is Bryan Davis here for the Fans First Sports Network, and this is the Fans First Football Show as we wrap up week 4. With me, as always, are new great friends of mine. They weren't always friends of mine because I just met most of these guys recently. Reed just keeps calling me up, so I decided to do a show with him. BSL Reed, what is up, buddy? Representing the Philadelphia Eagles. How are you, my friend?
Could be better. We'll get to it, but just a little preview. I'm ready for a head coaching change in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow, how quick they are. Nick Sirianni. I took them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Man, this isn't hockey, Reed.
We'll get
stuff.
there. We'll get to there.
All right, let's go ahead and talk to another guy who has had a head coaching change in New England, and they're growing, but not loving everything he sees right now. Nick Hogan.
Yeah, it's been better. Unfortunately, our guys did not show up for the second week in a row, and I don't know if things are going to get better at this point. I don't blame it all on coaching, but boy, oh boy, I am ready for next year's draft at this point.
Here we go. Only week 4. Wow. The towels are already, man, they're thrown in. A guy that is not throwing in the towel, you thought he was going to a few weeks ago when his Broncos were 0-2. From Broncos Mile High, it's Jess Place. What's going up?
Well, hey guys, I feel really bad. This is like rarefied air. I'm not sure how to conduct myself. We won today. The Broncos won, and it's kind of a new feeling. And usually I'm here commiserating with all the people who lost, but it's just me today. So it's party of one.
Well,
rub it in, Jess. Rub it in.
Well, while everybody else is showing us on the doll, you're dancing with it, Jess, so congratulations. Let's go ahead and, wow, that one did not land, did it? I think I'm going to have to take that one out. All right, well, Jess, I'm really glad you're excited about it. There's a lot of us wallowing in sorrow. Once again, we've got Aiden Reed from Broad Street LinkedIn, Nick Hogan from Foxborough Frenzy, and Jess Place from Mile High Broncos. I always want to go ahead and mix that up, and I do apologize for it. From Mile High Broncos, all fine affiliates of the Fans First Sports Network. I represent Steel Curtain Network. I also represent now the Las Vegas Raiders Insider as well, but black and gold till I'm dead and cold. But this is an NFL show, so we're red, white, and blue. We're talking about it all, and we're going to get started with quick rundowns of all of these games. So, to quote the great Gorilla Monsoon from the WWF days, let's batten down the hatches and get ready. So here we go. The first game that we're going to go ahead and talk about, I'm going to go ahead and let you kick it off. Aiden Reed.
Yes, we're going to start down in South with an NFC South divisional matchup. The Saints were away at Atlanta this week. Carr was 28 for 36 with 239 yards and a pick. Kirk Cousins, 21 of 35 for 238 yards and a pick. The Falcons really never got the running game going here, only 88 total rush yards. Saints shot themselves in the foot with that pick 6 by Derek Carr. But Kirk Cousins, man, something about that fourth quarter magic. Another game-winning drive. It was the Young Hoku game-winning field goal from 50-plus. And, if I'm the Saints, I think it's a little bit of a step back to reality. Again, they had a better game. They outgained the Falcons by almost 100 yards. That pick 6 really killed them, and they also had the fumble as well. Dominated the time of possession. But Kirk Cousins, man, he just finds a way.
I love myself a good Young Hoku game myself. Hogan, let me ask you this. The Saints started off like a scoring machine. Has everything calmed down there on Bourbon Street? Are they back to reality?
I don't think so. I actually think that they're still a very, very good team in their own right. If you look at their 2 losses this year, they both came down to the wire. Last week, what was it, against the Eagles, where the Eagles scored literally with a minute left to take the lead there. And then this week, it took another last-second, monster kick from Atlanta to knock them off, where they could have won the game easily again. So just as simple as they are 2-2 right now, they very easily could be 4-0. I think the Saints are still a very, very decent team in a very weak division. So they could easily turn on the Jets and surprise a lot more people going forward.
Oh, Jess, did you hear that? Turn on the Jets. We're going to talk about the New York Jets later on, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. New Orleans or Atlanta? Who's the cream of this division right now, or are we just forgetting about Tampa altogether?
Was that for me? I'm sorry, Brian.
That was for Jess.
Oh, it's for me. Well, I was impressed with what Tampa did today against poor Reed's Eagles. After like last week, the Broncos just beat the snot out of them, and it was wonderful. It was so much fun to see. I was surprised to see them roar back like they did this week. But I don't think you can write off the Saints just yet. I think a lot of Raider fans are quick to jump out and be like, that's the Derek Carr that we know. But I mean, going 28 for 36, that's actually pretty good. 239 yards. Yeah, the pick is less than ideal, but he's still dangerous. And I think if you underestimate him, you will be disappointed.
All right, let's go ahead over to the AFC NFC game here with our AFC specialist, Nick Hogan. Let me ask you this. Ellen DeGeneres and the Cincinnati Bengals got their first win of the year, 34-24 over Carolina. Thoughts?
This is much needed for the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously starting the year off 0-3, where they just looked abysmal at times, especially losing to my stinker of a team, the Patriots, in week 1. They got the job done. Obviously, Carolina had the great game last week with Andy Dalton coming in relief for Bryce Young, where he's benched and Carolina looked left for dead, and Andy Dalton came roaring back to life. It was a little bit of a battle for a while here between these two guys. Burrow ended up showing up and being his old self again, finished with 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. The running game got going with Chase Brown, of all people. I think their rookie there. He had 15 carries for 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, which was really nice for him. And then Jamar Chase had that one bomb where he caught the one touchdown on a 63-yard. That was just incredible to see him break a few tackles and really go wild there. Carolina did everything they could to stay in this game. Andy Dalton threw the ball for 220 yards and a couple touchdowns, but another pick. Chuba Hubbard looks like a new guy, another 100 yards rushing for him. And Deontay Johnson, again, showing up on the stat line, 83 yards and a touchdown. So Carolina's not really slouching over like I thought they would, where Andy Dalton does have this team behind him, and I think they're rallying to him. But Cincinnati Bengals are starting to look like the team they're supposed to be, or they were supposed to be in the preseason. So watch out for the Bengals.
Yeah, let's talk about that, Reed, because the Bengals are a team that could be dangerous, could get hot after that 0-3 start. And this was a good start, but should we worry if we're in Who Day Nation? Is this just this Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about the Bengals is their defense. They have guys banged up, and the Panthers actually outgained the Bengals by a couple yards in this game. I think it speaks to the fact that if the Bengals are truly going to make a remarkable run and come back from this 0-3 start, they're going to have to figure it out on defense, because I know the Panthers popped off against the Raiders last week, but shouldn't be a team that is outgaining you in a football game. And I would definitely be worried about that. And if I'm a Panthers fan, I'm looking optimistic. This team isn't as bad as it was the first 2 weeks. It was more Bryce Young, and it's kind of carrying over to our point last week that I expect, or I think they should move Bryce Young while he still has some value, because it's clear that the team just has a different energy and plays with a different type of tenacity when Bryce Young is not in the game.
Jess, your thoughts on either Joe Burrow's hair or the Bengals' chances in the AFC?
I think it's too early to write off the Bengals. They've been too good in recent history to just discount entirely. You have to respect them, even though they have the 1-3 start. As it goes to Andy Dalton, when the red rifle comes out and dominates you like he did the Raiders last week, you take notice, but you can't sustain that with the red rifle. He's not the guy, but neither is Bryce Young. And so, like you said, Reed, it's like addition by subtraction. Like the fact he's not there, they're better. I don't know if it's really an Andy Dalton thing. I don't think he makes them that much better. I think it's just they're better because he's anyone else.
It's not Bryce Young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Bryce Young. There you go. That's That's the title that I guess you want to have right now. Our condolences to Mr. Young and the Young family. Chicago Bears. Let's try that again. Chicago Bears, Los Angeles Rams. Reed, take this one.
Yeah, this was the DeAndre Swift game. A lot of Bears fans were saying, let's make Roshan the starter. Swift proves he still got it. 16 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown, 7 receptions, 72 yards for 165 all-purpose yards. Phenomenal game from him. Stafford did all he could to win this game. I mentioned it last week, just with no O-line and his 2 top receivers out so hard. He made some crazy throws, but was getting absolutely beat up back there. If you're a Rams fan, you just got to wait. You got to wait for your O-line to come back. You got to wait for Puka and Kupp, because as much as I love Stafford and as much as he can do it all, this game just proves that it's going to be hard to string together wins without the health of the roster.
Who has the more upside here, Hogan? Is it Chicago or the Rams?
At this point, I got to go with Chicago, where they have well, if you look at their roster compared to the Rams right now, if the Rams were a healthy unit, I'd absolutely go with the Rams. But unfortunately, with Cooper Kupp being out, Puka being out, I mean, they got to rely on Stafford throwing to Tutu Atwell, who's doing a great job filling in, and Kyron Williams is doing everything to put the team on his back there. But with Chicago, if you look across the board, we touched on what should be the triple-headed monster, the running back position with Swift, Johnson, and then I forget the last, or Foreman,
Khalil
right?
Herbert.
Yeah. Oh,
Herbert.
I'm sorry, Khalil Herbert. Yeah. But still, they have the 3 decent running backs, and then you can't shy away from DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. They have the star power there to be a phenomenal team going forward. So I'd like to put more stock in the Bears if I could. Whether it pays off in the future will definitely remain to be seen.
Just place DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze, like Hogan just mentioned, but only 7 catches between that trio. 22 yards for DJ Moore led that threesome. He did have the touchdown. Keenan Allen with 19, Rome Odunze with 1 catch and 10. Did you expect more out of these guys?
I really hoped for more from Keenan Allen, because he's on a fantasy team. I may have accidentally clicked him in the middle of a draft, and I was like, "Oh crap! I own Keenan Allen now." And so I've been watching week to week as he puts up next to nothing. So it is impressive, though, that Caleb Williams was able to go 17 of 23 for 157 yards and a touchdown as a rookie quarterback. That is a great stat line in your 4th game. He's not exactly dominating, but you don't expect that just yet. He's not exactly going, I don't know, throwing for -7 yards in the first half. So it's of the rookie quarterbacks, I think he had a pretty good game today. Not the best game of any of the rookies, but certainly a good game.
The Houston Texans 24, Jacksonville Jaguars are now 0-4 with only scoring 20 points. Houston came back late, Hogan.
Yeah, Houston, this showed me a lot about them with their grit and the way that they can survive at the end of the game there. I mean, I think a lot of people have Jacksonville written off at this point, where they started off 0-3, now 0-4. But Jacksonville didn't look too bad at some points today, where some more questionable coaching decisions with Doug Peterson going for it on 4th downs and whatnot. That's always a giant question mark when you end up losing the games there. But yeah, it took Houston all the way down to the last minute to pull this one out, where CJ Stroud looked like his old self from last year. 27 for 40, 345 yards and 2 touchdowns. He looked great. Nico Collins is just destroying, I think, the league receiving wide at this point. He is just on fire. 12 catches, 151 yards and a touchdown today. I think he's ahead of everybody else by at least 100 yards at this point. He's just unstoppable. On the Jacksonville side, Trevor Lawrence did everything he could again to win this game. 169 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And Brian Thomas Jr. looks really, really good for a rookie down there. 86 yards and 1 touchdown, but again, not enough to knock off the Houston Texans. Jacksonville falls to a desperate 0-4. Houston Texans look okay at 3-1.
Well, I got to tell you, that Nico Collins thing, I did not see that coming with the other talent that is with that team as the receivers. I think that is fantastic in Houston. CJ Stroud is the guy, and also making Ohio State quarterbacks look good. There's another Buckeye making those QBs look good. We'll talk about him a little bit later on in the show. But Reed, I want to ask you this. You want rid of Nick Sirianni. Are you taking Doug Peterson back?
I would take Doug Peterson back. Again, this might be a little recency bias, but
I love those Eagle fans.
I mean, hey, look, do I think it's entirely on Doug Peterson? No, I don't. Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked great, in my opinion. He's supposed to be got paid this year, supposed to be a generational talent. Yes, Brian Thomas Jr. I think is making him look a little bit better. But bottom line is I don't think Trevor Lawrence is the guy down in Jacksonville.
Jess, the National Football League seems to just want to give quarterbacks the bag without them really earning it at this point. Do you feel that Jacksonville made a mistake with Trevor Lawrence, not picking him, but giving him that bag like they did so recently?
Well, I think he has lost 9 of his last 10 games going back to last year. I'm not entirely sure why you give him the bag. He has magnificent hair. I understand that. I respect that. That is not reason enough to give him the bag. But he's also not getting a lot of help. I mean, Travis Etienne is not dominating like I had hoped, because I'm also a fantasy owner of his. And he's on my list of people I'm complaining about tonight. Etienne.
We've got the Zach Bond thing with Aiden, and now we've got the Just Place Fantasy Report. Okay,
I know. Well, I end up with all these scrubs, and I want them to just blow up. And Travis Etienne is going to be Travis Etienne, and I should have known better.
Hogan, do you have anything that you want to just focus on and dwell on every single week? You can throw it in.
Give me a little more time with this Patriots team, and I'll be right there with you.
Okay, Jess, real quick, better hair, Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow.
You got to go Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you got to go length. It's all about the length. Once Burrow went super short, he gave up the game.
I tried that.
He's not even competing anymore.
Short and blonde. I tried that last year. It was a losing combination for everybody involved, my family included. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. I think this could have been a game of the week. Really exciting, man. Minnesota, Sammy Darnold. You gotta love this story, Reed.
Yeah. As a Packers better for this game, it was very frustrating to watch. The Vikings got out to a very hot start, 28 points in the first half, and then virtually shut down the rest of the game. The Packers just lost this game. First drive, missed field goal. Second drive, interception. Vikings only had to go 46 yards to score there. Another missed field goal, another interception, and a turnover on downs. That was the first 5 drives for the Packers, and they almost came all the way back to bring it in. If you ask me still at this time, am I more worried about the Packers and the Vikings? I'm going to say the Packers. Call me a Sam Darnold hater. But this game was the Packers, and they threw it away. They outgained him in yards. Jordan Love, besides the interceptions, was throwing the ball over the field. Jaden Reed had a great game. But hey, look, I'm not knocking the Vikings for winning this game at all. In Lambeau, it's a tough place to play. But the first 4 drives, just 2 missed field goals, 2 interceptions. It's hard to come back against any team when you start off a game like that.
Jordan Love, 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, like Reed mentioned. 69 yards or 89 yards? 389 yards.
Hogan, he was the passing leader.
Wow, I got to tell you, Hogan, was he just bouncing the rust off?
I guess he didn't really seem rusty at all, except obviously the interceptions didn't look great. But when he was chucking the ball in that second half, after they came back from being down 28-0, some of those Hail Marys and bombs he was throwing up there were just unbelievable to watch, especially where you were so used to the Malik Willis show the last couple of weeks with Green Bay, where Malik Willis just dumps it down or runs for his life. Jordan Love is the real deal, and I obviously was very skeptical about him after taking over for Aaron Rodgers, where you had the success there that Rodgers had for so long. And that first year, Love was kind of but last year kind of opened my eyes. And if he stays healthy going forward, this is a very, very dangerous Green Bay team.
Jess, let me ask you this. This is a feel-good story in Minnesota. what are you thinking? Can they sustain this?
It's kind of fun to see. I mean, I have no skin in the game because the Broncos play in the AFC, and so I'm sure Reed, he's more invested in which team they will face in the playoffs because it probably will be one of these two teams. But I think it's great. Like Sam Darnold, like everyone kind of wrote him off. He was a disaster. He was unredeemable. And now, like today, he spread the ball around to 8 different receivers, and 5 of those receivers had more than one reception. Like he is finding the open man, and I think it's a great story. So, do I think that they're going to go deep? They have all the potential to do so at 4-0.
Indianapolis 27, Pittsburgh 24. Indianapolis was up 17-0. Hogan, tell me about this. Well, actually, tell those guys about this. I'm checking out for this.
I know you don't want to hear about it, but it actually was a very entertaining game, especially where it came down to what it did. Justin Fields did everything he could to come back in this game. Freaking the stat line he put up there, 312 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, 22 for 34, which again, you go back to his Chicago days, that is a career day for Justin Fields right there. He also put it on his back in terms of running the ball, 10 carries, 55 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And this was a game where Anthony Richardson got knocked out very, very early again. Very, very questionable. I actually saw the whole sequence where he came out of the game. Flacco came in for a play. Richards came back in and then got knocked out again. Very, very questionable with that whole decision making there, especially the play call where they rushed with Anthony Richardson there. But Joe Flacco coming in for relief again, 168 yards and 2 touchdowns off the bench, just looking like he did with the Cleveland squad last year, where he put the team on his back to get them over the previously undefeated Steelers. Unfortunately, Steelers dropped to 3-1. Colts go to 2-2.
Reed, the Steelers were terrible on defense after being the number 1 defense through the first 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a sign of reality for Pittsburgh, or do you feel that they can bounce back?
No, I don't think. I think they can definitely bounce back. I hold Shane Steichen to a very high standard. I think he had a good game plan coming in, and Jonathan Taylor's been one of the best backs in the league. Can't deny that. And kind of going back to like Andy Dalton, Bryce Young, and Joe Flacco last year, I would say, obviously, this just happened, but I can't imagine that the Colts are worse with Joe Flacco at the helm. You saw the receivers get involved. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman at 113 yards. I would not be surprised if Flacco made another run, especially with the AFC South division and taking this team to the playoffs. I'm assuming they're going to bring back Richardson, but Richardson he has the flash. He has the intangibles in terms of physical ability, but going back to his college days, just can't really figure it out at a consistent level. But again, I don't think the Steelers should be worried about their defense. Every defense is going to have an off day, and I think Shane Steichen had a good game plan coming into this game.
Jess, you saw the stat line for the Pittsburgh Steelers here, and I'm talking about Justin Fields. He had a wonderful day there. He was marred by two crazy plays, 2 crazy turnovers, and then when they were coming back in this game, a snap hits his face mask, and next you know they have 3rd and long and the chance to get a field goal to tie the game and push it into overtime was over. But fans believe, actually, the fans of Pittsburgh, who are very hard on quarterbacks, are very right now they're talking about Justin Fields as he is the guy. Do you think Russell Wilson even has a chance with this team?
You might as well put Russ into witness protection. You're never going to see him. It's Justin Fields' job to lose, and like throwing for 312 yards and a touchdown in a losing effort, like it's not on him. You know what I mean? It's not his fault. So they're not gonna put the hook in and put in Russ. Russ is not going to be cooking. He will not be riding. It's not going to happen. Maybe even this entire season, unless there's a catastrophic injury. Knock on wood.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break. We've been through a few of the games. We are going to finish with 6 more games to go ahead and close out week 4. Stick around. We will be right back on the Fans First Football Show on the Fans First Sports Network. Welcome back to FFSN. That is the Fans First Sports Network. Wherever you download your favorite podcast, make sure you find your favorite team, no matter what sport it is, and go ahead and check us out. Over 150 affiliates so far on the Fans First Sports Network in just a little over 18 months of existence. We're very proud of it. And 3 of our great affiliates are right here, right now. It's Foxborough Frenzy with Nick Hogan, Jess Place, and Broncos Mile High Broncos. And I'm going to do that every single week, Jess.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm starting to think it's personal.
And from Broad Street, it's just, I just go with the B first. I don't know. It's not, you're still on the show. If it's personal, I'd have somebody else here. And then Broad Street LinkedIn's Aaron Reed for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's great to have all of you guys. This is one of the highlights of my week, hanging out with you guys, recapping these games. I feel like I get a better handle on each and every game just by talking to the 3 of you. So thank you for joining me, and make sure you join all of us, not just on the Fans First Sports Network's NFL affiliate. Make sure you check out your favorite team as well. So let's go ahead and keep it going as we go back to the National Football League, and we're celebrating with Jess. It looked like the New York Jets were going to kick that field goal and get the win. Jess, I'm not going to let you talk about it. Let's talk to Nick Hogan first.
Oh, okay.
Well, he gave a little teaser earlier about one of the infamous stat lines from this game that I actually happened to catch on Red Zone when I was watching it, that Bo Nix somehow had it was 4 or 5 completions for -7 passing yards through like the second quarter of this game, which I didn't think was possible. And yet the Broncos found a way to win this game. 10-9. What a slogfest. It was incredible to see the highlights from this game where I guess the rain started pouring and I guess nobody wanted to hold on to the football. But Bo Nix, 12 for 25, 60 yards and 1 touchdown to finish the day there. Aaron Rodgers on the other side, 24 for 42, 225 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Neither team could really get a really good established running game. It looks like the Broncos got a little bit there with Javonte Williams, 77 yards there. But just, came right down to the wire where both teams had a chance. Denver had a chance to put it away and kick the field goal to put them up, 13-9. They missed that field goal. Jets got another chance to come right back and missed, I think, a 50-yard field goal to lose the game there. So Broncos 2-2. Watch out. They might go on a run.
Yeah, watch out, AFC West. Here we come.
We will talk to you about that in a moment. Reed, Aaron Rodgers, am I hallucinating, or is this guy just not the same from pre-ankle?
Yeah, I think it's still the O-line. They try their best to buff it up in the offseason, but I gotta be, if I'm Jess right now, I'm ecstatic about how this Broncos defense has been playing. He looks mobile though. He scrambled. He had some good scrambles. They just still haven't figured it out in New York yet. And Surtain has been the best cornerback in the league this year. Locked up Garrett Wilson. I don't know who to blame here. I don't know who to point the finger at. Is it Salah with the coaching? I mean, I don't know. But my biggest takeaway from this game is that I know it was raining, but I think this Broncos defense is legit.
Jess, you've got to be feeling good, but what does this mean for not just the franchise, but the fan base going forward in 2024? This seemed like a team that was going to be looking for a top 3 draft pick. Is there hope?
We're believing, even though it was a rainy game. It was a rainy, messy, nasty game, and almost an unwatchable game. Depending, I mean, it came down to 2 field goals, and they were both missed, and it was like, oh god, we're gonna lose because of a missed field goal, and then they missed one, and it was like, well, okay. I don't know. I think this is the kind of game that you wrap up tight, put it in a box, bury the box, and then forget about it entirely, because it was a rainy, disgusting game, and there were a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of great defense, but when you have a young quarterback, you do want to see more than -7 yards in the first half.
You absolutely do, and I get that, but you've got to be feeling good that this team at 2-2 has some winning ways on the horizons. So let's keep on going with this. Reed, I hate to do this to you, but I need you to talk about that disaster in Tampa Bay today.
Yeah, disgusting. Bottom line is we weren't prepared to play. No effort. Defense was horrendous. No tackling, no pressure on Baker Mayfield after the Broncos sacked him 7 times last week. The Bucs have our number. Todd Bowles is the same thing every time we play them. 7:24 left in the second quarter. Tampa Bay had put up 254 yards and 4 scores. We had 0 yards with 7:24 left in the second quarter. I hinted at it earlier. Going back to the end of last year, it's just the vibe of the team. I think it's time for Nick Sirianni to go. You said that he took us to a Super Bowl in 2022. I would credit that more to Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon, who are both head coaches now and their respective teams. Bottom line is we didn't show up. And I don't know what Nick Sirianni does. He said he was going to take over offensive play calling. It's inexcusable in those first three and outs for Saquon Barkley to have 2 rushes. Again, with our 2 top receivers out. I'm like a broken record. Establish the run game. It'll open up the pass game. And we just refuse to do it. So, and I'm sorry. I'll give some flowers to the Bucs. Baker Mayfield absolutely shredded our secondary. I think Quinion Mitchell was the only one who looked okay out there. Slay got burnt. Avonte Maddox in the slot. I've been saying to bench him for weeks. He sucks. But yeah, they had their way with us. It was the Baker Mayfield show today in Tampa.
I can't believe that I'm loving the Baker Mayfield show, but I absolutely am right now. This guy was just drafted first overall in 2017. Here in his 8th season, he's got a lot of time. I'm going to ask you this, Hogan. If Baker Mayfield had a good running back on that team, could this be a Super Bowl contender?
I guess so. I'm inclined to hate on Baker Mayfield as well because he went to that darn Oklahoma team, and I'm a big Texas Longhorns fan, so I've never liked Baker Mayfield. That being said, he is surrounded by top-tier talent down in Tampa with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Sterling Shepard actually made an appearance down there as well. I almost completely forgot that Tampa grabbed him this year. And then, like you said, if they had some decent running backs, maybe if they could go get Leonard Fournette again, they wouldn't be too bad. They look really, really good on some Sundays, and then they look really, really bad like they did last week. But Tampa is definitely an interesting team to keep an eye on going forward. But at the end of the day, I think Mayfield is just going to be himself and not win.
Jess, people's choice here. Go ahead. You have control of the board. You either get to take the ascension of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or is Reed being spoiled in Philadelphia, wanting to get rid of Nick Sirianni already?
Reed has a point. Nick Sirianni has Saquon Barkley, and they only gave him the ball 10 times today. How do you give one of the most electric running backs in the league 10 carries? Like that is beyond. Like
They were down 21-0 just like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to catch up, but you again, your most prolific offensive weapon needs to have the ball. Like, find a way to incorporate him into the game. Just 20 rushes, 30 passes. Like if you have the most electric running back in the game, you need to give him the ball. You need to give him the ball more.
And I think it's a little skewed because, the biggest play of the game, we're down 30-16 in the red zone, 2-possession game on the 19, and Hurts, with no pocket awareness, fumbles the ball again 3 times through 4 games. So, Brian, like, I get normally the game narrative would make sense if you don't want to give Saquon the ball, but we were in that game. Like, I would still feed Saquon. Even if you're down 2 scores, I'm still feeding Saquon. And he saved us again. He busted that one run, which set us up for our touchdown. And then, he's rushing for like 8 yards a carry, and we give it to him 10 times. I don't know. It's miserable. I'm miserable.
I'm not being a Nick Sirianni apologist here, but Hogan, help me out here. I mean, is this too early? This is not the NHL like I was joking about earlier. What are you thinking here about talks of Sirianni already?
I'm hesitant to say that they need to chop his head off and go find the next guy because he has had relative success with this team over the last few years. And I think a big thing too is they got to look and see that no Devontae Smith, no AJ Brown. So that was obviously a big factor in this game where they didn't have their 2 best wide receivers. Again, Sirianni does make a lot of questionable calls. The problem is, who are you going to replace him with right now that's going to be better at this point?
Very interesting. That is going to be a topic we are going to be watching for the remainder of this 2024 season. And I really respect Aiden Reed's comments here on Philadelphia because he knows what the fan base wants. He knows what's going on there. He is very passionate about this team, but it's really interesting to watch. And I represent a Pittsburgh team that they have one of the greatest coaches of all time, and he's a big loser this week, and it's all his fault. And that's what everybody wants to say. That's the narrative. The coach will get not really the glory, but though, well, he should have done that when they win, and when they lose, they want his head on a platter. So let's keep on going forward here with hate to do this to you, Hogan, but San Francisco 30, New England 13. The rebuild continues.
It continues, it stutters, and it falls flat on its face as it did today. This was just another putrid matchup for the Patriots. They did not show up at all Thursday night against the Jets, and they did not show up on the West Coast today to play the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers had their way with this team. It started off early where Jacoby had his first turnover for the season and threw a pick six to Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in the game right now. From that point on, it was just the San Francisco show rolling forward, where the Patriots tried to get back into the game later on. Joey Sly, franchise record, 63-yard field goal right before half. Woohoo! There we go. Yeah, that was our big celebration today on New England's side. They did force a fumble right after that, after halftime, to cut the lead where it was 20-10. Looks like we might have had a fighting chance, and then San Francisco just slammed that door shut, where Purdy had a nice day, 288 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Jordan Mason went off again, 24 carries, 123 yards. And then on the Patriots side, I don't even want to read off any of the stats because they were just that porous. So Patriots got to find a way to do something about their offensive line, because Jacoby is not getting it done. And even if he had an offensive line to protect him, I put a lot of blame on this game today on him, where he just had poor decision making and cannot get the ball to the receivers that he needs to get it to. So 49ers look good, getting the win they should have gotten. Patriots are looking like the dumpster fire that I predicted them to be at the beginning of the season.
Jess, is San Francisco back?
Were they ever down? They've been a contender ever since Kyle Shanahan got there. Ever since the Denver Broncos decided not to hire Kyle Shanahan, and you have John Lynch as the general manager. It is basically Denver Junior over there, and what they are doing is so awesome. Like, George Kittle came back today, and he was involved. It's a lot of fun to watch. The football in San Francisco is really fun, except when they're beating the snot out of your team, Hogan. I get it. I totally understand. I have the utmost respect for San Francisco. I think that they play a good game of football.
Indeed, they do. And when this team gets healthy, look out for them. Let's go back to the NFC. Actually, stay with the NFC, even though that was an interconference matchup. Reed, you've got to be looking at Jaden Daniels and the Washington Redskins right now, 42-14 winners over Arizona, and thinking, wow, is there a new sheriff in town?
Yeah, this was an absolute thwacking. Commanders had their way with the Cardinals. Daniels, they showed some crazy stats. Completion percentage through his first 4 games is beating Brady, Breeze, all these great quarterbacks. It's funny, I have a bunch of Commanders buddies because I went to school down in Virginia, and I was telling them, like, I don't really hate you guys because we always beat you guys. And look, now they're at the top of the NFC East, and Daniels looks like the dude. It's definitely a little frightening just because of the fact that he's so young and he might be in the division for a very, very long time. Yeah, it's hard to not be nervous, especially now that they're at the top of the NFC East, and the way that not only us, but the Cowboys don't look great either. So definitely a little queasy at the thought of the Commanders being good.
Hogan, is this 2023 Houston and CJ Stroud all over again?
It potentially could be. It really is, because I don't think a lot of people projected CJ Stroud or Houston to really take off the way they did last year and win the division and go from worst to best like that. The Commanders have the potential to absolutely do that. Unfortunately, where We call it the NFC least for a reason. Sometimes the Giants don't scare anybody, but at the same time, the Cowboys don't look like themselves, and the Eagles are very hit or miss at times. Washington's got command of this division right now, and Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal, especially with what he did to Cincinnati and then again to Arizona today. I had Arizona, fighting in this game where I was like, I picked them for one of my wins, and boy, did I look silly doing that. So watch out for Washington.
Jess, 88% completion mark for Jaden Daniels through his first 4 games. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No. I mean, this is, well, really, like it takes you back to like early Ben Roethlisberger or, Andrew Luck? Didn't he also have like a kind of a stellar early start to his career? Like, so you do see it, but like you look at the highlights of Jaden Daniels, and I get it that it's the Cardinals, but he was carving them up, like just bullets, like laying the ball on the numbers. Like it's amazing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these Commanders, unless you are an Eagles fan.
He just looks so comfortable back there.
For the next, I don't know. It's just going to be 20 years or so. You'll get through it fine. It's just like living through Patrick Mahomes.
Wow, yeah, that's.
I don't want to hear that, Jess. I do not want to hear that.
Yeah, that's a long drought if you have to live through the Patrick Mahomes experience like Jess Place has. So I understand what you're saying. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's probably the best way to explain this Jaden Daniels situation. They are now 3-1 in Washington, and the district has got to be flying high right now. This is a great story. We're talking about Minnesota being a great story to watch. I'm really enjoying watching this Washington team as well. I live in the vicinity. Lots of Commander fans here, and I consider it a home game when I go see Washington and Pittsburgh in November, and it's going to be one of those things when you're like, wow, Washington, be careful what you ask for, because when I bought those tickets for my family, I'm thinking, this is an easy win. It's no longer. Washington is tough, and that's a good defense there as well.
New ownership, new quarterback, new team. I mean, it turned the page on what you thought you knew about the Commanders.
Yeah, and I love it. This fan base has gone through a lot, especially during the Daniel Snyder years. They deserve it. They deserve a winner, so I'm really glad to see this. We talked about the Patrick Mahomes experience. Well, that is a team that remains undefeated. Kansas City 17, the Chargers 10. Hogan, this was tight all the way through.
Yeah, this one wasn't decided really until actually the last few minutes of the game, where I think Xavier Worthy had the touchdown that he did to set the Chiefs up good to tie it 10-10, and then I believe there was Samaje Perine. He rushed it in there to break the tie, make it 17-10 that the Chargers just couldn't come back from. But I'm going to be the first one to say that I think Patrick Mahomes is having a very off year for himself. He's thrown an interception in every game so far this year, and he does not look extremely comfortable back there in the pocket like he normally does. I mean, granted, the Chiefs are 4-0, so I can't sit there and say they're having a bad year, but Mahomes just doesn't look like himself. Travis Kelce looked a little bit more like himself today, 7 catches, 89 yards. On the Chargers side of things, Herbert still doesn't look great with that busted ankle he's got, but he played the whole game and he fought through it. There was no rushing really on either side. Kareem Hunt did return for the Chiefs, which is an interesting storyline. But Chargers lose a tough one where they easily could have been in there with the Chiefs.
Wow, this was an intriguing game, Reed. I got to tell you this. Kansas City, I agree with everything Hogan had to say. Do you feel that the dynasty is starting to end here?
I don't. Mahomes said it himself. He needs to play better. Look, they're still winning these games. They're still 4-0. Is there any doubt in my mind that when they make the playoffs that Mahomes is going to flip that switch? No, there's no doubt. I think if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm just worried that it's going to be a tougher road like it was last year. Rashee Rice exiting the game. They believe he tore his ACL. He was, I think, second behind Nico Collins this year. Just a phenomenal receiver. And look, now that he's hurt, Mark Hollywood Brown was already out for the year. You're looking at a rookie receiver leading that team in Xavier Worthy. Travis Kelce's going to have to bounce back with the poor, slow start to his season. His first 3 games this year was his worst 3-game stretch in his career. But I still think it's Mahomes. He's going to figure out a way. That's just the bottom line how I see it. And he has the defense to do it. The only reason the Chargers scored was because of that pick. I mean, they were shut out after the first quarter. The Chiefs defense is legit, even after losing L'Jarius Sneed. McDuffie's a monster. And with this defense, Mahomes can still play C- games and they can still win. And I have no doubt when playoffs come, he will be able to flip that switch.
Jess, I'm not being sarcastic when I say this, but it seems with the 3-2-2 teams in this division and Kansas City at 4-0, even with, I feel that Kansas City is going to be on the decline soon, but does it seem like the division is decided already?
No, I wouldn't say that. I don't want to say that. Logic would say that, yes, they do have twice the wins that the other teams do, and that they have the pedigree of having gone to the Super Bowl and won it the last 2 years and years previous, of course. But it's too early. It's too early. I have hope still. I'm believing. I want good things for the AFC West, which is like a change. At least like the Chargers, I'd be okay with that. Like give it to the Chargers. Let them win the division. That's fine. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. It's good. But no, it's the Chiefs show. And, there's a lot of hullabaloo about the officials coming in to rescue them. Not so much in this game, but in games previous, for what you want to discuss about that. But I hate the Chiefs, man. I don't want them to win, and they're 4-0, and they win every week. And I was really rooting for the Chargers, and they, again, let me down. They always let me down when I want them to win.
Not only did they let you down, you did not get to sing that certain song. We missed you last week. Give it to us.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. No, not. They have to win. If they want to hear the song, they have to win. I
like that. Hold them to a standard.
Earned, not given, right? Come on.
Exactly.
I need a party with Jess Place. That guy seems like the life of the dinner party. I need to hang out with him. I'm going to get that Superchargers out of you pretty darn soon. One more game to talk about here. The Las Vegas Raiders and the Cleveland Browns. Hogan, this was interesting to me. Cleveland and Las Vegas. Cleveland started off slow, but it just seems like they were going to get it together, but they can't get going. And Las Vegas right now, much needed win for them. What are your thoughts on the Raiders?
The Raiders actually showed a lot of grit, I think, today, especially losing to Carolina the way they did the last week. And the Browns easily could have won this game today. There was one play where I think Amari Cooper caught like a 60, 70-yard touchdown that got called back for, I want to say holding or something. But
it was a terrible call, too.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I remember sitting there being like, wow, they went off and they got this. But yeah, that was kind of the turning point in the game with the call there, and then the Browns just couldn't put it together at the end there, where I think the Raiders gave them a lot of different chances to get back in the game, especially the fumble, I think, for the return to the touchdown. Again, Deshaun Watson is not doing himself any favors. He's not winning games for the Browns where he has these opportunities and these chances to do it. And the Raiders are getting it done with the amount of injuries they had on their side today. It was a miraculous pullout for them to get this win. I mean, no Max Crosby, no Devontae Adams. I'm looking at the stat lines right now, and I honestly don't want to read any of them because they were all putrid across the board for both sides of the ball, but the Raiders found a way to get it done, and the Browns are just who we thought they were. They're not that good.
Reader, the Browns, one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL.
They have to be. I just think the fans are so sick of Deshaun. We touched on it last week. It's time to move on. Going back to what Hogan said, he had so many opportunities to win this game, even going down to the last drive of the game, holding onto the ball too long, scrambling when he shouldn't, and giving attitude to the media on the off weeks. Like, he's just, I feel like, the most unlikable player in the league right now. But I think the biggest takeaway from this game is the Raiders can finally got the run game going. They've been the worst rushing team in the NFL. and they finally got it going today. And with the defensive head coach, they want to run the ball, and they just haven't been able to. Finally got 152 yards on the ground today. And they're frisky. The Raiders are frisky. Not going to say that they're going to go and make some crazy run, but they're not a write-off every week. They're not a team that you're just chalking up as a W. They got some fight in them. And like Hogan said, so impressive. I mean, they're missing their two best players on each side of the ball. And to win this game, if you're a Browns fan, you're just in shambles after that.
All right, Jess, I am interested to hear from you here. And we're gonna do this Casey Kasem style. 3, 2, 1. Count them down. Who do you hate the most?
Oh, it's always the Raiders. The Raiders must always lose. It's the Broncos won, and then whoever's playing the Raiders. And in this case, it was the Browns. But that last play of the game, there was no hope. No one was afraid that Watson was going to convert on fourth down. It was never going to happen. And he rolled out to his left and then like pump faked, and then it was all over. He got sacked. It was ugly. It was exactly what you thought was going to happen, and it ended with a Raider victory, and it ruined Jess's afternoon. That happened right after the Chiefs won. So it's like sure, the Broncos won, but the rest of the AFC West is a tire fire in Jess's eyes.
I love it. Let's talk about the Raiders a little bit more, Jess. I want to ask you in all seriousness, are they just hopefuls at this point, and they're not really do you really give them any aplomb?
They haven't won a Super Bowl since 1983. They haven't won a playoff game since 2002. They are not a threat to anybody.
I'm talking about 2024, though.
Yeah, this year, next 5 years. They're the Raiders. That's just what they are. That's what they do.
But that's a good coach in Vegas. You're not going to give them any credence, are you?
No. There's no reason to. They haven't won a playoff game in 22 years.
Well,
they're the Browns.
The Cincinnati Bengals went all those years without winning a playoff game as well until just a couple of years ago. It was about 30 years when they broke the hip of Bo Jackson, and they still lost.
That's the Bengals.
Okay. All right.
The Bengals are not the Raiders. Which is the better team? Bengals.
Hogan, am I asking the wrong guy?
Potentially. I know what you're alluding to. I do think that the Raiders are on a decent path going forward. As I do agree with Jess, though, that they have been abysmal for the last 20 plus years. But I think that they have the pieces in place to start becoming a better team down the line. Where you look at a lot of the young talent they have. Brock Bowers is looking like a home run for them at the tight end position there that they grabbed this year. They need a quarterback, which, a good chunk of the league always says that they need. But if they can get a quarterback there, if their defense can remain, healthy with Max Crosby leading the way there, Christian Wilkinson's no slouch at the nose tackle spot. I mean, Antonio Pierce is a good coach, and he showed it last year taking over in the interim. But I think they could be on the up and up going forward. But like Jess said, until they prove it, kind of have to count them out right now.
Raiders gonna Raider.
That's good enough for me, and we'll leave it at Raiders gonna Raider. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and get our teams of the week. We're gonna start with Reed.
My team of the week this week will be the Commanders. I hate to give it to a division rival, but they absolutely thrashed the Cardinals in what I thought was going to be a shootout. The defense was the biggest question mark on that team, and they came out and shut down a volatile but can be electrifying Cardinals offense. So I'm going to give it to the Commies.
Hogan, what are the Commies?
The Commies.
Hogan, your team of the week.
Brian, you're not going to like me for this one. I do apologize, but I got to go with the Indianapolis Colts for what they were able to do. what they were able to do to the 3-0 Steelers, especially with Anthony Richardson getting knocked out of this game early the way he did, and Joe Flacco just, doing what he does at this point. He just comes in and apparently saves franchises by coming off the bench and doing what he's got to do. But he looked good today, and I granted the Steelers defense I thought has been fantastic the first 3 weeks of the season. They didn't look top tier today, but the Colts were managed to find a way to get it done with Justin Fields having the career day that he did. If the Colts can figure out a way to keep going forward and take advantage of that weak division that they're in, they could be a team to watch out for.
Jess, your team of the week.
Team of the week is the Cincinnati Bengals. The NFL these days is a lot better when the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow are doing well, and so it's good to see them, turn the page on their 0-3 start and get their first win.
All right, I am going to. You thought, Hogan, you thought I was going to be mad at you. I'm going to be mad at myself right here. As we're recording this, it's 2-minute warning. Baltimore is beating Buffalo 21-3. And if that holds up and what they are doing to a Bills team that seemed to be running away with Josh Allen seemed like the guy. And, he has been, but it's like they were going to go for miles without losing. And the points that they've been putting up by only keeping them to 3 points. And they're a tough team. This is a team in Baltimore that you've got to get up early on them, because they do not blow a whole heck of a lot of leads. So I know they did a couple weeks ago against the Raiders, but this is a team, the way they're handling the Bills right now, I've got to make the Ravens the team of the week. And I feel sick to my stomach that I just did that, but I've got to be objective here. So once again, looks like we've got the Colts. We've got, Jess, who did you take again?
The Bengals.
The Colts, the Bengals, the Ravens, and Reed, you went with the Commanders as well. Wow,
Yes.
really interesting. You and I, we went with rivals there. No, definitely just a fantastic week 4 in football. The NFL is not disappointing. So we will be back next week. I will not be. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys are in prime time, and I'm going to find my way into stadium. So these guys will be there. I might do a cameo appearance. So we will be back next week. Make sure you check out Broad Street LinkedIn, Mile High Broncos, and Foxborough Frenzy. And, wow, I just realized something. All of you basically have some parts of your stadium or the old stadium in your name. We've got Foxborough, we've got Mile High, the old stadium, and the Link. And then here I am with the Steel Curtain Network, going back further just to the line of the 1970s. So with that being said, make sure you check out Fans for Sports Network for all of your NFL needs and sports in general. So for Reed, for Jess, for Nick Hogan, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Thank you for joining us. And we've got one last thing to say. Go football.
Go football.
Go football.
Superchargers.
We got it. We got it.
I did it. I did it because I wanted to, not because you told me to.
All right. With that, we're out.